Welcome to the You Were Designed for Greatness podcast. Each week we will bring you inspiring tips, stories, and ideas to help you be all that you can be, discovering your greatness. Featuring Donna Tashton. Donna is a transformational life and health coach, a highly sought-after public speaker, and the founder of Vibrant Living. She has helped hundreds find a better life, free of stress and living the greatness they were truly designed for. And now, your host, Donna Tashton.
This is Donna Tashton, and I would like to welcome you to podcast number 31. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Rebecca Stein. I am excited about our conversation you are going to hear. So here we go. I would like to welcome you to You Were Designed for Greatness. I am super excited about my guest today. I have Rebecca Stein with me today, and we are going to get to know her and learn about her life and what she would have to share with us. Say hello, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy you are here and that we are getting this chance to get to know each other. So why don't you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see. I am a mother of four. I have my own business that started about 4 years ago. I would say I have a comprehensive writing practice that focuses on competitive or selective processes. And what that means, a lot of fancy words, is I help people write things that are going to be evaluated, or that you're going to win, or you're going to be chosen or selected. So the business really started as a grants writing practice for nonprofit organizations. I did resumes, business plans, and then sort of by serendipity ended up helping friends' children with their college application essays. And that piece of the business is really what's going crazy. And it's tripling right now organically, word of mouth, year to year. And I work mostly with international students applying to U.S. colleges. And I work with them online and by Skype and document exchange software from all over the world.
That is amazing. You and your little home here in Grand Rapids are impacting the world. Did you ever think it was possible?
I did not. And I actually, if you ask me 10 years ago, if I was an entrepreneur, I would say absolutely not. I consider myself to be relatively risk averse. I'm conservative financially, all of these things. And then all of a sudden I ran a business accelerator. I worked at a nonprofit organization. And all of a sudden I realized literally like 3 years into this last year, I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. How did this happen? And, your life comes calling and the thing you're supposed to do shows up at your doorstep. And sometimes you just do it and don't even realize it.
Yeah. But it happened one step at a time.
It did. And every step felt like the right thing. And It's never been a struggle. I love what I do. It feels like it's my retirement job. I actually I'm on a board, and I was in our board meeting. We were doing some, getting to know you exercises. And they said, if you didn't do your job, what would you do? And I honestly said, I would do this job. I love my job. I feel like I'm sort of retired. And everyone goes, oh, now you're making us feel that. And I was like, oh, I don't mean that, but I really love what I do.
Yeah, that's what I say about Vibrant Living and coaching is the same thing. It's like we recently met with our financial planner, and he said, when do you want to retire? And I'm like, I don't really want to stop doing this.
Never.
And I'm like, I can sit and talk to people, as I get elderly, as long as my mind is sharp, I don't have to be mobile. I can do this anywhere. I'm like, I don't want to stop.
I can do this from my sofa, which I am doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Yeah.
So yeah, so I get that, but I know that there were periods in your life that was not the case, that you were existing. And I don't know, maybe you're like me and putting on mask to pretend to be whatever the people around us ask us to be. You mentioned before we were talking, pretending an extrovert when you're really not.
Right.
And all of that kind of stuff that we do. So what, you have any stories about how that affected you compared to where you are today? And how could women get there that are listening to us?
Well, okay. So I will tell you, yes, for years I was, I went to college and graduate school. And as I told you, the university and academia was the parent I never had. And it was the greatest thing for me at the time, in the sense that of all the choices you could have, that's a pretty good one. I had a therapist who said, girls who are raised like you don't end up at Harvard, they end up with a baby.
Yep.
And I said, yeah, I took what was behind door number 3, but not realizing the baggage that came along with that, and about success and achievement and approval and external to me needing to get the good grade, right? And that percolated through my life for years. And it was about my body and the way it looked and what my home was run like and how successful we were or appeared. And there was one point I had actually taken a mental health vacation to Boston. And I checked in the Charles Hotel, which is right next to the only Episcopal monastery in the United States, St. John the Evangelist. And I would hear the bell and I'd go to prayers every day. And, and in between, I was doing crazy things like running 7 miles and then taking 2 back-to-back hot yoga classes. And, so I did this one day. And then the next day I do the whole same thing. And I get up there to this like yoga place that I used to go to in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is all full of high achieving, beautiful, worked out yogis with their Lululemon yoga pants and their $1,000 tattoos. Right. And there I am, ready to do day 2 of 2 back-to-backs of hot yoga. And I get in there and this was the most important yoga practice I ever had. I get in there, the music starts, and I just looked around me and I said, this little voice came from the inside and it said, I don't want to do that. And I laid down on my mat in child's pose and I cried for 90 minutes and I cried because I felt like I failed. Mm-hmm. I looked around me and I was like, I am failing, but I can't go on. I can't do this anymore. And I got so many adjustments. It was great. They came by and patted me. Teachers were freaking out. But what that was the beginning of saying, it's okay to stop. It's okay to say, I don't want to do this. And that's one moment. But then the next moment is then the next work is saying, what do you want to do? And dismantling, taking off all of those pieces of clothes and the masks and the things that you thought were you, getting down to who you really are, and then going forward from there one step at a time, saying, what is me and what is not me? And that's a process that can take several years.
Yes, it can.
Forward and step back.
Yep.
It's like a little screwy statement that you hope that the trend is up, right?
Yep. It definitely is. That is the hardest question that I was asked and that I ask my clients is what do you want?
Yes. What is me and what is not me?
Yes.
And you have to give yourself permission to have me be whatever it is.
Yep.
And that comes from, for some people it's going to come from, therapy. For some people, it's going to come from religion. For me, my experience in the church was really like, I didn't, you go to church your whole life or whatever. I grew up in the Christian tradition, but I didn't get the message of the gospel until that point. I said, I missed the good part of the good news, which is you are okay.
Yep.
When you fail, you're going to fail. And there's no amount of works that are going to make you better.
Yep.
You just accept it. You're good. And that's, like letting that in was, truly understanding it. That was the moment that I really understood it.
Awesome. That is so wonderful. Yeah. So you have children.
I do.
Yes.
3 boys and a girl, 15, 13, 10, and 8.
Oh. And you're raising them by yourself? Is that
No, we're 50-50. Their dad
okay?
lives a mile away.
Okay.
He has a big business. He has a relentless travel schedule. So, they're there, and, they're here when they're not. And we do our best to co-parent. It's not always easy, but it's
Yes.
getting easier as time goes on, and, forgiveness comes in and all those things. And, you move on together.
Awesome. That is great. I love you stepping into your purpose, your calling is words you had used. And I love that word.
Okay.
Is when you know it. You shared with me when we were talking before we started to record about the poem that you were telling me. Could you tell me a little bit more about that again?
Yeah, it's Mary Oliver. I love her. She died, 2 years ago now. She's a female poet, lived in Provincetown, Massachusetts, I think. And she writes a lot about nature and as an allegory, but there's a poem she said, it's called Have You Ever Entered Into the Long Black Branches? And there's a line in there, it says, are you breathing just a little and calling it a life?
Mm-hmm.
And she has so many. She has one called Wild Geese that starts, you don't have to be good. You don't have to walk 1,000 miles through the desert on your knees repenting. You just need to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And just really thinking through that, what does it mean to live a full and rich life and be yourself, be fully yourself, and have that be okay? And one of the things I talked about, I had great therapists. People would say, are you seeing anyone? Are you dating? And I'd say, oh yeah, I'm seeing 2 guys. They talk to me 2 hours a week, all about me. It's great. They're there always on time, And one of the things I said is I want to be congruent. I want the inside to match the outside. And you realize how much shame and energy is wasted in keeping those, if they're not flat out lies, they're masks in place for different audiences.
Yeah.
And learning to just say, everything here is what you see. My life is my life. Who I love is who I love. My house, everything is congruent. And that is now when I open my mouth, I'm like, am I speaking the truth? Am I saying what it is that's true? Am I, is it all congruent? And I feel like I've gotten to that place, and, it's so freeing, and it leaves so much energy to do other things, like take a chance on running a business, or love your kids in a certain way, or, garden, but congruence is super important to me.
Yeah. One of the things that I love to say is speak your truth without having to be right.
Yes.
Because then that doesn't put me on the defensive. I can just be me without being worried whether you approve or not.
Right.
I don't have to be right. I'm not wrong. I'm just me.
Right. And I have no stake in that horse race, in the sense that I understand that you could see things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
There's very little that I fight about. My mother had a long-term illness. She had a brain tumor for her entire life, a non-metastatic pituitary adenoma. And, when she died, which was in 2013, I think, life after that point got divided into 2 kinds of things. It was problems that time, money, and patience could fix, and ones that couldn't. And it's really clear which ones are which, and I don't waste any time on the ones that time, money, and patience can fix. On the ones that are not fixable, I don't get angry. And the ones that are fixable, guess what? I'm glad I have time, money, and patience, So, life throws things at you. They fall into one of those 2 categories, and that's how you react.
It's amazing how much energy we do put into the pretending that, and the exhaustion and the amount of mental illness that is becoming more and more rampant as we try to pretend. It's so exhausting. You can never sleep enough.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with my kids, we do this thing at dinner. We do glad report, sad report.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go around, you say what was good about your day and what was bad about your day, and everybody listens. And what I hope that teaches them is that every day is going to have some good and bad in it, and you embrace both of those things, and you can talk about it, and you just say, yeah, today was a crappy day. I can't think of one good thing. And then everybody else has a chance to go, we love you, you're here, we're here for you. And but it doesn't have to look good, it doesn't have to feel good, and you don't have to have only positive emotions.
Yep, we do not. And that it can be okay.
Yeah.
And it's not a forever.
Right.
It's a day.
You frequently note the arising of negative emotions and rarely note their departure.
Yes. What's some of the worst advice you ever got?
Well, there's a lot of that. I would say the most recent one, or the one that I think was most, I've realized how much of a bullet I dodged, was when I was talking to my friends, as you do when I'm in the process of discernment about leaving my marriage. They said, just stay and spend his money, which I think was a very gendered statement, but also just stay. And I think there's a lot of people just staying. You look around and you see substance abuse and infidelity and a lot of compensating behaviors that are because of that. And that would have been devastating for myself and my children.
Yeah. And so what's some of the best advice that you can think of?
The best advice, I know I looked at these questions before. I'm going to say with give yourself time. Almost all of my poor choices have been done in haste. And so that I always appreciate when people I know remind me to slow it down. I was talking about something with my business with Mike Warren, who runs Star Garden, and he said, you know what? Slow down. He said, do what you can this year. Get proof of concept. See if your curriculum works, because the next year's coming along. You don't need to run at it. You're going to make mistakes. And a guy I know from High Park Angels, Jeff Carter, said to me, don't worry because I'm thinking about what does this business need to be? So I need to get out of it, and how do I sell it? And he said, don't worry about that. You build a good business, somebody's going to buy it. Don't worry about that. Slow down.
Yeah. That's very good.
Yeah.
My word for this year was to be still. That was one of the things, because I had all these grandiose plans for the year, and I've got to run, and I've got to do, and I've got my list, and I've got my plan, and I'm, and all of that going on. And when I was in prayer, it was just be still. And it's just like, but how do I do that? I've got all this stuff to do. And, and then I would rev up again. And it's like, no, be still. And more good has happened this year with Vibrant Living than any year. And I've been more still. It's amazing.
Yes. This great article I keep returning to, if you want to Google it, it's by Kimberly Patton, who's a professor at Harvard Divinity School. It's called When Wounded Emerge as Healers. It was a speech she gave at class day. But one of the lines in there says something like, we live in the society of constant motion, right? And that we don't make a lot of room for dormancy, latency, or rest. And that it sort of blows past the fact that some people who become great masters at things and created works of beautiful art, symphonic music, or whatever, have frequently returned to that discipline after a period of time of letting it go. Years sometimes. And that dormancy, latency, and rest are critical to human development. When you look at it from children, when you look at the garden, I mean, everything has a season.
Right.
And scripture tells us that, right? And you have to let that occur. And we live in a society that will push you away from that with everything that it has.
I'm learning. I recently heard someone teach on it as well, and I'm learning that there's a difference between collapsing and resting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even God rested,
Yes.
and we try not to. It's like we wait until the end of the day till we can't go anymore, and we totally collapse, and we feel guilty for taking time to have a break during the day, or to go for a walk, or to rest and watch a funny movie.
Yes.
Or to do nothing.
Yes.
I mean, and we do that all the time, and the society seems to push us that we've got to go constantly, so therefore we collapse as opposed to resting. Or your body gets sick and you don't go anymore.
Right.
Your body goes, no, we're not going to work today.
Right. Right.
And so just learning to rest and to really put that as part of our, if you will, your to-do list.
Right. I take a nap every day.
Yes, take a nap every day. Yes. How much more productive we can be when we get still and listen to our intuition, which is a lot. Listen to God. Listen to your calling. Listen to your purpose, because it will show up, but it doesn't when I'm running frantically.
Absolutely.
I have to get quiet. So thank you so much for sharing your story today.
That was great. I love to talk about it.
If anyone needed your services, how would they find out about you?
My website is www.thematriculadies.com. That's matriculadies.com.
Okay.
And I also have a Facebook page. I've got, Twitter, Instagram. I've got all the grams.
Yes.
And I love what I do, and I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being with us today. And I hope all of you listening have found nuggets of wisdom to be able to slow down, listen, and be still in it all. Thank you again, Rebecca.
Thank you, Donna.
Wasn't today's conversation with Rebecca awesome? So many nuggets of wisdom and insights to pull from today's conversation. I would also like to remind you of my book that is free, available on my website. And it is helping you get to that quiet place. From Frazzled to Freedom is the name of the book. My website is iVibrantLiving.com. Go check it out. There's all kinds of free resources available for you.
Thank you for joining us on this powerful episode of the You Were Designed for Greatness podcast. Please share this with others who might enjoy it. For more info on Donna Tashton or to contact her, visit iVibrantLiving.com.